Um, I'd like to say that this is my 35th year of having the studio. And in the studio, I have my ballet school, which is Fortier Studios now. And I have a nonprofit ballet company that does nutcracker and other things throughout the year, as well as the ArtWalk that I now do these shows for the past 4 years. So this is my newest venture, and they all kind of work together, and I love these events because it brings all the arts together, and I get to have fabulous art that I don't have to buy, but I get to look at every day, although I end up buying a lot of it. So I just want to say really briefly about my 34 years going into my 35th year that it's been such a great, after I stopped dancing professionally, we opened this school, my ex-husband and I, Constantine, 34 years ago when my oldest son was a week old. We moved from Dallas and retired from our professional careers and opened the studio. And 7 months later, I was pregnant again for Sean, who's standing over there, the blue shirt. And I have 4 sons actually. But never did I imagine that things would be what they were. You just work and you just do what you know. And so I've had the opportunity to touch thousands of mostly young girls' lives. And I'm really proud of the group that I have right now. They're a small group. COVID really was a tough one for all of us, but we were dancing in boxes in this room with masks on. That wasn't any fun. So I'm really, really proud of them. So this being our 35th year, y'all all have a membership form that you got in your program, and I'd like you to consider becoming a member of Ballet of Petrie. There's perks that go along with that, but it helps us keep dancing, and it also keeps these events going on. So the way the ArtWalk works is that if I sell any of this art, which I hope you will buy some because it's fabulous art, the artists get 80% of whatever is sold, so it goes directly back to the artist. The other 20% becomes a donation from the artist to Ballet of Petrie. So it all stays within the art world, and I don't make a penny from it. And I love this, and I love bringing all forms of art into the space. I have musicians, and I have painters, I have sculptors, and some people do all things, and culinary artists, and just whoever, and we enjoy the space. I started the Art Walk really 4 years ago because I took everything old that was on the walls down, and I just was having the walls painted white, and it was such a fabulous space, and I said, let me just ask a few friends to let me hang some of their art to be inspired, and it's turned into such a fabulous thing. Me and my dancers, I don't know if y'all follow me on social media, but I do videos with the dancers talking about the art, and yesterday I did a video with the 5-year-olds talking about Maggie's wings. And it's just so fabulous, and we're so inspired by this. So that's my story, and thank you all for coming. So the way this is going to work, I'm going to have my dancers are going to dance first, and the first piece they're doing is a piece they learned this summer by a choreographer named Fred Davis, who there's an Emmy award-winning documentary on his life. He grew up in the streets of Brooklyn. His mother was a drug addict, ended up being taken by social services. Anyway, found his way into the ballet world basically through a situation that was like Boys and Girls Club. And people took him in, and one of his dreams was to dance with the Dance Theater of Harlem. He ended up doing that, living his dream, and now he's back in Chattanooga, Tennessee, his hometown, starting his own program for underprivileged children. So it's been really great. So he came in this summer. It's probably like the 4th time Fred's come in, and he choreographed this piece. And it's a part of all these 4 seasons. The music's been recomposed by Max Richter. And I have 2 dancers performing this, and it's Charlotte Tepper and Sophia Rufino, and I believe they're both 16 years old. Sophia goes to Mandeville High, and Charlotte goes to SSA. like us first.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I love when Alfred Hitchcock would start his show that way. I really want to give a big round of applause for Kelly because she really worked so hard. Without her, it wouldn't happen for sure. And I'm no help. And she always has a great group of artists, and I feel really fortunate that I'm able to participate. I get to participate in just about every show, so it's always something to look forward to. And I do clay. I started out doing clay work years ago. I mean, it's crazy to think about 50 years ago I started doing clay work, and I'm still doing it now. A couple of those little globe vases over there are mine. And so I have fun, love what I do, and I'm really happy to be here with Kelly and get to show my work to y'all. So enjoy and good evening.
Okay, next up, I have a dancer who is going to speak to you and tell you about what he does before, because I'll mess it up. His name's Jordan Costello. He grew up here in Mandeville and is a very good friend of my son, Sean, who's here. And so I've known Jordan since he was a kid. But I'll let you talk about yourself and then do your piece.
Oh, yeah, just want to reiterate, thank you to Miss Kelly for putting on the whole production. This is my second time doing this, and the first time was a really good experience. For those of you that were here before, you probably kind of heard me talk about this a little bit. My journey with dance is a little bit different than everybody else, in the sense that I didn't really start actually like training in dance until I was like 22 or something like that. I'm 32 right now, so for perspective, I've been doing it for about 10 years or so. I think that one of the really interesting things that to me really stuck with me and it became a passion through this is just when I kind of dove into like the style that I really like, it really came from going to different dance events in the street dance community, and it's very different than it is in the studio world, but it's also very similar in the sense that people, they have this giant passion, right? And just like the ballet dancers that are here, they may practice 6 to 8 hours a day, doing what they love to do. It's also the same in that world. Those people train 6 to 8 hours a day just because they love to do it, and it's really inspiring to me. That's part of the reason why I got into dancing the way that I do. I have respect for all forms of dance, and it's just become a really big passion of mine. And someone earlier, Steve earlier, mentioned that he heard that I live 2 lives, which is kind of very, very true. So I have a career in engineering as a naval architect, so I design ships for a living. But on the other side, I just have this immense passion for dance, and so I do it every day. And the close friends of mine that are here, they know, and they'll tell you, my roommate's right there, Joey, that I practice every single day. And it's just because out of a pure love for dance. So if anything, like for the younger ones that that are here that may be struggling with like trying to figure out, should I go for a passion or should I go for a career? What's the better option? Like I feel like I can say that you can really do both. And I've been fortunate enough to do some really cool stuff with dance, and also in my career. Last week I just had probably one of the biggest accomplishments in life through my career through naval architecture. And so just want to kind of reiterate, like for again the younger crowd that's here, especially the dancers here, it's possible to do both. If you have a desire to do dance for a living, I would say just go headstrong like now, and just don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it. Don't listen to anybody, and just go for it. That's all I gotta say for now, and I guess we go ahead.
Kelly, for all you do for the arts and this, for Madisonville and this part of the town and the country. We all appreciate you. I have a tendency to say too much, so it's gonna be a challenge for me to kind of reduce this, but I wanted to talk a little bit just about art and its history. Art has existed since probably the beginning of time or even before time. It exists in the universe, it exists in creatures, it exists in plant life, it exists in organic and inorganic matter. There's always an action involved in creation, force, pressure, and many times that involves destruction in the process of creation. Many things have to be destroyed before they're created. And many times halfway through the creative process, something has to be restored, destroyed, or corrected. It's just part of the process. What else I wanted to say? There's an intelligence, certainly in creatures. There's an intelligence that combines art, structure, the capability of building, cultivating, travel, and nourishment or self-sustainability. It happens in every sort of living creature on Earth. In some ways, it also happens in inorganic materials. Somehow there's still an intelligence about chemistry and what goes together and what reacts to this and what, causes that. Somehow there's a knowledge even there that goes on And there's probably some experts that know more about that. But I'm just talking about visually, as an artist, what you see and the beauty that you see in rocks and in mountains and leaves, the structure of leaves. I mean, it's everywhere all around us. Other thing to remember is that somehow we're genetically wired to appreciate all this. That we may be in awe, or we may be inspired, or even feel reverent in looking at a mountainside or an ocean, or just many different things that speak to us personally, on a personal level. Many times this could be an emotional experience that possibly you don't even understand or you can't put into words. That's the beauty of it all. Somehow it touches something even inside you. So I'll tell you a little bit about artists. In my opinion, artists are magicians, and they have a bag of tricks, and they have a knowledge and an understanding of these tools in order to create this plane or this one-dimensional imagery to entertain us. Some of these things can be line, shape, mass, volume. They can even be symbology, shape, symbology that remind you of something that isn't particularly that object, but still is reminiscent or spikes your intuition about that shape. It also involves movement, color, value. The content can be biomorphic, organic. It can be structural. It can be any combination. It can be merely suggested or reminiscent of something. I'd like to say that art has been used as primitives and moderns. It's always been used to document or to capture or to convey some sort of emotions. Many times artists are experts in this art of communication with all these different symbols and stuff that they put on this one-dimensional plane. It's a very sophisticated language, this visual language. I think the other surprising thing is that this visual language can speak to you in one way, and then to speak to you in a very different way. You have a completely different experience about the same piece of art, but that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
The New Orleans Guitar Quartet, and I met these guys through David Ziegler, who came and played with us, and Brandon actually came with him last time just to have fun, and we did. We had a good time. So you're going to talk
Yes,
about you
yeah.
guys and.
Hello everybody, my name is David. This is my third time here, but this is our first time here as a group. Like Kelly said, we're the New Orleans Guitar Quartet. Here at the end we have Mr. Elvis, we have Taylor, and Brandon. Bear with me 1 second. Yes. So, this evening we prepared a piece to share with you. It's a piece written by a composer named Clarice Assad. It's entitled Blue Zillion. So it is exactly what it sounds like. It's sort of a synthesis of Brazilian style music. So you'll hear some like Afro-Cuban rhythms blended with some sort of jazzy, bluesy stylistic material. And I think that kind of touches on what we love to search for in music that we play. Is music that I like to use the analogy of a soup versus a stew, right? So a genre soup is one that is quite well mixed, and you can't really pick out exactly what's what, as opposed to a stew where you can clearly say, oh, that's jazz, that's blues, that's Afro-Cuban, Brazilian music. We love music that's kind of soup, and you can't pick out what's what, and it all just kind of blends together, and I think that's really what we look for when we...
invited me to come and show here. It's the first time since 2019 that I have been out with my work. Before that, during COVID, I just kind of went inside. And so I'm just going to take you on a little bit of a journey, starting with my earliest piece in this show. It's something I did way back in 2014, the tall piece with crepe myrtle branch and passed paper. That's called Carrier, and I think it was sort of a sign of where I was headed. It was inspired by the Wild West. When you had somebody injured out on the field, you would maybe make a cot that would be hooked onto the back of a horse, and you'd get drugged to civilization. So that was my first piece, and also then very shortly after that, I did a piece that's, I think, out in the entryway. It's a small frame piece, and it's called Chaos Theory.
It's over in the corner, Maggie.
Where is it? Okay. Oh, yes, in the corner there. And that just came from pieces that I didn't want to throw out from something that didn't work. And it was inspired by a saying that a woman had. She's not the author of it. Function in disaster, finish in style. Which reminds me of chaos theory. It's actually chaos theory. The theory is that in chaos, there is actually an organization to it. And so I think Carrier and then chaos theory sort of gave me a footing to know I was in for a ride. And so then out in the hallway, I had an older piece, or it was shown in 2019. It's called Brimming. It was made from boards from an old barn up in Kentucky. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law had this barn that's tilting, and they were waiting on the Quakers to come and tear it down and take the wood. And you can see from the bottom half, it looks like there's no use for that wood. But as I dug down, it was really beautiful, had some integrity to it, so I carved drips in the upper half, and then a line of glass, and then left the old boards. My brother-in-law was up on the rafters with a buzzsaw, way up high, 2 stories high, cutting those down, so I couldn't not make something out of it after he's risked his life and limbs. And I'm thinking then the next piece, and so then COVID came, and I had an inkling. I had the little piece that's right by that one that's brimming is called Undermined. It's a white box with roots inside of it. Those roots I had for 10, 15 years and didn't know what to do with them until COVID came, and it was I saw the box and it just seemed to be appropriate. It looks like one root, but then there's actually a second root that's coming around from behind, grasping and pulling on it. And so you can shut the box if you want, or you can open it up. You can be very exposed, or you can shut it. So my work is I somewhat expose myself because I like to create community, and I'm really excited to be here and share this with you. The next piece is Cross Purposes, which is the piece just to the left of the crepe myrtle, and that started inspired by the beginning of COVID when I saw a newspaper picture of a public park in the Northeast where they were social distancing, and it was rolling green grass, and then they had painted on the grass white circles, and people could stay inside of those circles. There were people lounging with their bicycle and having a picnic in another one. And I was frustrated with everything going on, as many people were. So, but I couldn't do anything. So that's where I started to go inward. And it quickly morphed into an inner work. So I took that and translated it into tic-tac-toe. If you've ever played tic-tac-toe and you've been at it for a while, you realize it's really easy for nobody to win. And so my X's and O's are, X is Leonardo da Vinci's man, and the O is a loosely interpreted fetal, thank you, fetal position. And it's a little hard to see, if you're not very tall, but the shelf below has a lot of little pieces of broken glass. So this game has gone on, and it can continue to go on forever. There's always one last play, and we don't know whose turn it is. There's more figures to be tossed up there, and see what happens. So those pieces, and then the final piece that I wanted to talk about is these wings, which were, I showed them 2019, but I wasn't happy with them. I needed, I tried a couple of things during COVID and it didn't work. And finally, I synthesized it down, and these vines were taken from a house on Yankee in Covington. The people had heavy vines on their wall, and they were so heavy they were tilting and falling off the wall. So they cut them down and put them out by the street. And I, of course, drove by several times before I had to finally give up and get them all and bring them home. And so, taking a look and getting rid of a little here and a little there, the wings started to appear. This piece is, and then the center branches have a feeling to me of a bit of a sacrifice. So being underground all during COVID was a bit of a sacrifice. But the name of the piece is Open Space, and that's how you get beyond the wall. That's what I felt. There was a wall in front of me, and you sometimes have to clip your roots and see what develops. So that's everything. Oh, no, also just, this is Serene, sort of like, I've done paperwork, and this was the first time I did anything that was three-dimensional with glass, the first time I cast glass. So anyway, I think that's everything, and it's my extreme pleasure to open up and share it, because that is what my work is about, is documenting my journey and putting it out there for everybody, because I think we all have a lot of similarities, and I want to create that community. And this is a wonderful community. It's a treasure, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it. Thank you.
There's 4 visual artists in the space. The only one that hasn't spoken tonight is Scott Ewan, and these are his works on this wall. And Scott lives in Arizona, so he is not here. But I was so grateful when Scott contacted me and said he wanted to be a part of the show. And another gift, you know, to me, it's about meeting the people who create this art, because that's what art is, right? It's people expressing themselves. And so I love when the artists show up with their work, because I get to hear about how it was created and connect with them as people. And so the gift of Scott being in the show is that I got to connect with his mother, who is here tonight. And she was a ballerina in her early days, and we actually share some similar teachers that we both had growing up. So that was really cool, and thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate it. So I feel very is just beautiful. So you can thank him for us. And I want to say a little bit. Steve didn't really talk about his work, and David actually didn't talk about his either. We're going to have lessons on what we're going to talk about. But I'll just talk about what's in this room that I can see. Those are Steve's pieces in the corner, the alligator, and I don't know if any of y'all have looked at it well enough to know that that's made from paper pulp. Steve's a collector, like Maggie talks about. She drives down the street and picks up roots off the street. Well, Steve picks up everything off the street, right, Noah? We have to control that. But he ends up making these incredible things. That's made from paper pulp, that alligator on the wall. And then those clay pots that sit below it, those came from your
you're entitled Alfred Memories, right? So Steve went to school, you wanna say something about it, or am I doing an okay job? He went to Alfred and studied art, and so you have to finish up, because I don't know.
One of the graduate students while I was there, I was an undergraduate at Alfred, and it's a little bit unique because it's on the campus of Alfred University, which is a private school in Alfred, New York, which is the southern tier, and it's the most rural, most poorest county in New York, but it's a land-grant university, been there since like 1840, but it's part of the SUNY system, and it's when I was there, it was in 79 to 81, it was the darling of the SUNY system, so they had gobs of money and all kind of visiting artists from New York City, and anyway, those two pieces were inspired by one of the graduate students, George Johnson, that I really liked his work a lot, and still have one of his pieces sitting on my kitchen counter for the last 30 years. But those are the first two I kind of an homage to George. And the paper pulp, years ago, again back at Alfred, we went up to Rochester and went to the Flower City Paper Tissue Factory, and it had probably a paper pulp pool as big as this room in the machine making the tissue paper. So I've been kind of intrigued with paper pulp for 30 years plus, and just in the last 6 or 8 months started casting paper pulp. So that's where that came from, and it's fun. Paper pulp's a little bit like clay, that you can stamp it and mold it, and it took about 10 days with 2 big fans blowing on it 24/7 for it to dry enough to get to this show. So,
And it got here this afternoon.
yeah. So that's it. But Alfred was great. I mean, it planted seeds that are still sprouting today, which is awesome. And it was one of the better things that I was able to do in life, and still reaping the benefits of it.
What I have for you guys tonight is my dancers are going to do one last piece, and this is a really special piece to me because the choreographer that came in and created this piece this summer is Katrina Carreau, and Katrina was one of my very first students. The first year we opened the studio in 1988, and she danced with me. She was about 11 years old when we opened the studio, and she danced with me until she graduated from high school, like most of these girls have danced with me since they're little. And so Katrina still dances. She's in her 40s now, but she's still a dancer and an incredible woman. So anyway, she came back, and I love when my alumni come back and share what they've gotten in the dance world outside of here at home, and share with my current dancers. So it's really cool. This piece is called Push Pull, and it's about having adversity or struggles in your life and what you do to overcome them. And she dedicated the piece to her father, Frank Carreau. So I have 4 dancers in this piece, Sophia, Evelyn, Helen, and Charlotte.